In this car market, even though things have returned to what some would consider somewhat normal, the car market can still be incredibly difficult to navigate. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the cars that you should not buy, either because these cars have rapid and unpredictable depreciation, or because these vehicles are still overpriced and thus they could drop in price even further. But I'm not just going to be going over the vehicles that you should avoid. I'm also going to be talking about some alternatives that you can look at instead. Now, keep in mind that in this video, we are purely going to be going over the depreciation and appreciation aspect of vehicles. We're not going to be going over things like reliability, potential issues, or really any other factor at play here other than price and depreciation trends. So let's get started. First is brand new electric vehicles. These are cars that I truly would not recommend touching with a 10-foot pole. EVs across the board are holding their value extremely poorly, with some EVs holding their value worse than others. But truthfully, whenever it comes to EVs, none of them are holding their value well, so it's best to stay away from these, at least whenever it comes to new cars. From the Audi e-tron GT, which has an MSRP of $106,000, but you can buy them just a year or two old for under $60,000, to the Polestar 2, which has an MSRP of just under $50,000, but you can buy them for about half that price at just 2 years old. There is no arguing here that EVs just hold their value very, very poorly. And while there is no EV currently on the market that I recommend buying new, and yes, this is with the tax credits in mind, there is a really easy workaround to this problem if you're someone who just wants to buy an electric vehicle, and that is to buy used. I highly recommend buying used EVs over new ones, and I even more than that recommend trying to hone in on what EV you want, searching high and low for a below market value one. Really, regardless of what type of electric vehicle that you want, buying used and more specifically trying to buy below market value is going to be the best way to approach this. To give you a real life example, I bought a Tesla Model 3 Performance back in April at a time where Tesla's values were and truthfully still are a bit volatile. I paid $26,000 for this car, which was about $4,000 to $5,000 below market value, and I'm actually currently selling that exact same car for close to $30,000. And so I was able to not only avoid depreciation on my Tesla, but I was able to make money from it due to the fact that I bought my car at a really great price. Buying below market value is incredibly important with any car that you buy, but it's going to be especially important on cars that have poor depreciation, which electric vehicles do. Next up is the Wagoneer, and there isn't a specific model that you should avoid. It is pretty much all of the Wagoneers in their entire lineup. In the last year, the Wagoneer has depreciated by 17.89%, while the overall Car Gurus Index has depreciated by only 5.3%, and the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index has only fallen by 2.8%. So it is safe to say that in the case of the Wagoneer, it has depreciated more than average. And unlike some makes and models that I've spoken about on my channel before, where there are some models from an automaker that hold their value well, and then a different model from the same automaker doesn't hold its value well. Like I mentioned a moment ago, this is not the case with the Wagoneer, and the Wagoneer just doesn't hold its value well across the board. From the Grand Wagoneer L, the Wagoneer, and the Wagoneer L. These all have depreciation ranging from 16.55% to 24.92%. Not good. Instead, truthfully, I would go with the Chevy Tahoe. Now, honestly, I'm not a big fan of the Chevy Tahoe. In fact, whenever I was looking to buy a 3-row SUV for my Turo fleet, I opted out of the Chevy Tahoe and I ended up getting a Lincoln Navigator. And truthfully, I think if you're looking to buy something that is 5, 6, 7 years old, getting something like a Navigator or even a Cadillac Escalade could potentially be a good play, at least from a depreciation standpoint. But especially whenever it comes to newer models, the Chevy Tahoe has the best depreciation of any other 3-row SUV, from the Suburban to the Navigator, Expedition, or the Escalade. And while the Tahoe certainly isn't going to be immune to depreciation, because truthfully, most 3-row SUVs depreciate pretty poorly, it definitely will fare better than alternatives like the Wagoneer. Next is Audi. Audis have extremely poor depreciation. We mentioned this earlier with the Audi e-tron, which is easily one of the, if not the worst car holding its value in the last couple of years. But Audi in general really doesn't hold its value well. While Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index has a depreciation of 2.8% and Car Guru's Used Vehicle Value Index has a depreciation rate of 5.3%, Audi has a depreciation of 8.33%. Not terrible, but definitely not the best either. And whenever it comes to luxury vehicles, there are far better choices out there. Across the board, with the exception of the R8 and the S8, Audis are just tanking in value, with the e-tron losing 23% of its value, the Q8 e-tron losing a whopping 31%, and the A7 losing a whopping 14.3%. And the list goes on and on. Two much better alternatives here, at least from a depreciation standpoint, and I think arguably a maintenance standpoint as well, would be a BMW or a Mercedes. While Mercedes EVs are crashing in price and on par with Audis, BMWs are actually holding their value quite well, and both BMWs and Mercedes ICE vehicles are holding their values far better than Audi, not only for newer Audis, but also for older ones as well, making either BMW or Mercedes a much better bet than Audi. Next is Jeep. This is an interesting one because Jeep has long been branded as a solid American brand that holds its value well. This was particularly believed with the Wrangler, not so much with their other models. And while this may be historically true in the context of the Wrangler, it could be argued that this is no longer the case at all. Jeep reliability is questionable at best, and under current market conditions, Jeeps are just piling up on dealership lots, leading to tons and tons and tons of dealership discounts across Jeep's entire lineup. This has sort of created the same type of effect that we saw with Tesla whenever Tesla discounted their vehicles back in 2023. Dealerships are discounting Jeep vehicles by so much on dealership lots that this is impacting and trickling down to people who are wanting to sell their used Jeeps. And it's causing for the value of these vehicles to go down even more. Jeep as a brand has an average depreciation of 9.36% in the last year, which is well above market average, with the largest depreciation coming from the Wrangler and the Cherokee. Now, when it comes to alternatives, you may think that the Bronco could be a suitable choice, but you'd be wrong. Because believe it or not, while Ford has better depreciation than Jeep, the Bronco specifically has had as bad depreciation as Jeep, and the Bronco Raptor has had even worse. So the only really good alternative here is probably going to be a controversial one, and that is Toyota. While I know that there is a valid argument to be made that Toyota doesn't really make anything super comparable to the Jeep. Even Toyota's most rugged vehicle doesn't have a removable top. It's a different size than the Jeep. It certainly isn't as close aesthetically as the Bronco and the Wrangler are to one another. But if you're looking for cars that hold their value well, there truly is no better option than Toyota. And that's not only true in the context of an off-roading Jeep alternative, but it's also true with the overall car market as a whole. The 4Runner has an incredibly low depreciation rate of only 0.35% in the last year, far better than the average metrics for the car market, but also far better than any other car in this segment. Land Cruiser could be another suitable alternative to a Jeep, but in a different tax bracket, but truthfully, it's way too early to tell how this newest generation of Land Cruiser will do depreciation-wise long term. But if I was a betting person, I would say it's probably going to do pretty well. If you want to learn more about how I buy cars in order to limit or in some cases completely eliminate the cost of ownership, then you should check out my course, The Car Buying Masterclass. The Car Buying Masterclass is your A to Z guide teaching you everything you need to know about buying cars in a strategic way, from how to find the right cars to buy, how to negotiate below market value deals, and how to do incredibly thorough pre-purchase inspections, as well as everything in between. If you're interested in checking out the course, you can check the link down in the description below, and you can use the code OFFER50 to get $50 off. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.